In a quiet countryside stood a decaying mansion on top of a hill called Hollow Hill. The locals whispered that no one who entered the mansion ever came out sane. It was once owned by Mr. Harlan Graves, a wealthy merchant obsessed with money and power. When he died mysteriously, the house was left abandoned. But villagers claimed they could still hear the sound of coins clinking inside. The legend said, "Those who enter the house with greed in their hearts never return." Decades later, 4 treasure hunters arrived in the village: Ethan, Laura, Mick, and Sophie. They were young, daring, and driven by greed for hidden gold and antiques. At the tavern, the old innkeeper warned them, "That house gives what you want most, and then takes everything you have." They laughed it off, calling it a silly ghost story. The next morning, under gray clouds, they packed their gear and hiked to Hollow Hill. The mansion loomed like a sleeping beast: broken windows, vines strangling its walls, and a rusted gate creaking in the cold wind. As they entered, the gate shut on its own with a metallic bang. Sophie nervously looked back. "Did anyone close that?" Ethan smirked. "Old hinges, nothing more." Inside, the air smelled of dust and decay, but golden picture frames still glimmered faintly on the cracked walls. They spread out, greed shining brighter than their flashlights. In the grand hall, portraits of the Graves family hung, their painted eyes eerily lifelike. A faded inscription under one read, "Gold reveals the soul." Suddenly, a heavy chest appeared at the corner of the room, as if it had always been there. Mick rushed toward it, breaking the lock open with a crowbar. Inside lay gold coins, jewelry, and ancient silver cups. Everyone gasped. Sophie hesitated, whispering, "This can't be real." But greed won. They filled their bags without question. As Mick stuffed his bag, he felt something burn his hand. He looked down. The gold coin he held had turned red hot, leaving a deep mark on his palm. He screamed in pain, but when the others looked, the coin appeared perfectly normal again. They mocked him for panicking, but a faint whisper echoed through the hall. "Take what is not yours and pay the price." No one acknowledged it out loud, but the fear had started to creep in. As they decided to leave, they noticed the main door had vanished, replaced by a solid wall. Lara ran to the back exit. It too was gone. The house had trapped them. The air grew heavier, the lights dimmer, and the sound of footsteps echoed though no one walked. Sophie shivered. "This place is alive." Ethan, determined, said, "We'll find another way out, maybe through the cellar." They found the cellar door under a stairway, half broken and covered in spider webs. As they opened it, a cold gust of air rushed upward, carrying the faint smell of metal and rot. They went down with flickering flashlights. At the end of the cellar was a long table covered with dusty ledgers, coins, and contracts, all signed by Mr. Graves. One ledger was still open, the ink fresh. "He who takes from me shall repay in soul." Sophie's voice trembled. "Guys, this writing is new." Suddenly, the temperature dropped. Their breaths became visible. The lights flickered violently before going out completely. A dim golden glow emerged from the corner, forming into the ghostly figure of Harlan Graves himself. His eyes glowed like molten gold, and his voice was deep and echoing. "You came for my treasure. You shall feed my house." Panic broke out. Mick swung a flashlight at the ghost, but it passed through. The ghost smiled, and Mick's reflection appeared in a broken mirror behind him, then stepped out of it, pulling him inside. Mick vanished, leaving only his bag of gold behind. Terrified, the remaining 3 ran upstairs, hoping to find another exit. The house shifted around them. Walls stretched, stairways moved, and rooms repeated. Every hallway looked the same, filled with whispering voices chanting, "Greed brings chains! Greed brings chains!" Lara began crying, dropping her bag of jewelry. The whispering stopped. The floor under her bag cracked open, swallowing it whole. A hand made of gold rose from the crack, trying to grab her. Ethan pulled her away just in time, but the golden hand clutched her ankle, turning her leg into solid gold. She screamed until her entire body became a statue, lifeless and gleaming. Sophie fell to her knees, sobbing. "It's the gold! It's cursed!" Ethan, still clutching his heavy bag, refused to believe it. "We can still get out. We just have to find the front door." Sophie shouted, "Leave it, Ethan! The gold is what it wants!" But Ethan ignored her and ran down another hallway. Sophie followed, the house groaning as if alive, its doors slamming shut behind them. They stumbled into a room filled with portraits, all of the previous victims. Some faces looked terrified, others were frozen mid-scream. Ethan recognized one. It was Mick, freshly painted. He stepped back in horror, dropping a few coins. The voice of Mr. Graves echoed, "You can never run from what you've become." The coins Ethan dropped melted into the floor, forming chains that wrapped around his arms and legs. He struggled, but the chains pulled him toward the wall, right into an empty portrait frame. His body vanished, replaced by a painted version of himself, eyes wide with terror. Now Sophie was the only one left. She fell to the ground, crying, "Please, I didn't mean to take anything." The ghost of Harland Graves appeared again, silent this time. He extended his bony hand, offering her a single coin. She refused. "No, I don't want your gold." The ghost paused, and the house grew still. The walls began to crack, letting in pale moonlight. Sophie ran toward the light and found the front door reappearing. She bolted outside, collapsing on the cold ground as the mansion roared behind her. When she looked back, the house was gone, replaced by an empty, grass-covered hill. The next morning, villagers found Sophie unconscious at the edge of Hollow Hill. She woke up trembling, her hair streaked with white, and her voice barely above a whisper. When they asked what happened, she only said, "The house feeds on greed. It gives gold and takes souls." She left the village that same day and was never seen again. But years later, travelers said that sometimes on stormy nights, a faint golden light flickers on the hilltop, as if the house still waits for its next greedy visitor. The moral: the story of the house that punished greed spread far and wide. It became a tale told to children, not to scare them, but to teach them. The moral was clear and powerful. Greed blinds people to danger, makes them betray their morals, and in the end, it consumes them. True wealth isn't in gold or jewels. It's in kindness, honesty, and contentment. For those who seek more than they deserve, there's always a house somewhere, waiting to collect its price.